Hello, everybody, and welcome back to 50 Shades of Tay. I'm Taylor Gonzalez, and you guys, the other night on Netflix, I watched a brand new film. It's currently in the top 10 on Netflix, and I loved it. It's called Girl Hunts Boy, and I have the director with me today, Emily Ting. Emily, how are you doing today?
Hi, good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, well, thank you for joining
Mhm.
me. I absolutely loved your movie. It was such a fun film, and how does it feel to have it out in the world now?
Such a relief because I don't know if you know the backstory to the movie, but it was originally set up at HBO Max.
Oh.
So we actually shot this movie in 2022, and then it just sat on the shelf for 2 years because of, the regime change at HBO Max and Warner Brothers. We ended up losing our home at HBO Max. So there was a moment where I've almost sort of given up hope. Like, okay, this is just going to become a tax write-off. Like, it's never going to see the light of day. And then like earlier this year, I guess Netflix came in with the rescue and decided to give us a new home. So I'm just, so grateful that it's out in the world, and available for people to see.
Yes, it is such a great film and it deserves to be seen. And what a bummer these movies that are getting just written off as tax write-offs and just
Yeah.
never going to see. There was a Batgirl movie, I think there was a
Mhm.
Scooby-Doo movie, a Looney Tunes movie, and it's like
Mhm.
I can't imagine putting so much time and
Yeah.
effort and energy and like literal years of your life into something, creating art and then having it just never see the light of day. And I'm so thankful that that did not happen with your movie because like I said, I loved it. I thought it was very
Thank
sweet,
you.
very emotional, which I did not expect the emotional. I
Yeah.
thought it was going to be just, like a light romantic
Yeah.
comedy, but there's a lot of emotion in it. And I, I don't know, it's a movie that has stuck with me. So I'm really excited for people to see this film and for the word of mouth because I already know it's going to be very positive word of mouth. And I feel like the closer we get to Halloween, the
Yes.
more this is going to grow and grow.
For sure. Well, thank you so much for helping us spread the word. Because when you switch homes, it's sort of you become an orphan. And there was very kind of little promotion and buzz going in. But, it's been a week. It's been out on Netflix for a week. And usually it's like you drop off the top 10 after a week. But we like climbed onto the top 10 after a week, which is sort of like the reverse trend, which I think is really cool. And that's sort of showing that the word of mouth is growing and people are kind of discovering this film organically
Mm.
on Netflix. And it's been really cool seeing all like the TikTok
Oh.
videos and like that people make are like, oh my God, why am I sobbing at this? Like they think it's going to be a silly ghost movie. And then they're like full on sobbing at the end. And that's
Mhm.
kind of what we want.
Yeah. Oh, such a great film. It also looked like it was just like a blast to film.
Mhm.
And I was wondering what the most fun scene was to film, and was it the Great Gatsby party?
Oh, for sure. The Great Gatsby party was our big set piece. And that scene took us 2 days to shoot. And we were very nervous going in because it has to look grand, and that was sort of like our most expensive set piece. And it all came together. Like I remember I was so worried about the background dancers, and I was telling our producers, like, we need to like hire real dancers. And they're like, no, they would cost extra. So we got to get just like, like regular background extras, and you can't teach them how to dance. So I was just praying that when the music starts, they would just kind of know how to dance in the style of that period. And it all worked out. Like once the music started, and then, we would do take after take. And again, like these extras were just amazing. It's like energy is like here the entire night. Like we had to do that over and over, and
Mhm.
people were just dancing and dancing and dancing. And we never really lost that energy.
Oh, that's
And
great.
it really just became kind of a big party for us at the end, too.
Oh, that's yeah, very good. It just seems like so many things came together like at the right
Yeah.
time and perfectly for this film.
Hmm.
And one of the things that I love like throughout the film was when Cole was teaching B about modern pop culture, like all the
Hmm.
different references,
Hmm.
to Taylor Swift, Post Malone. I was
Hmm.
wondering if you had to make a playlist of some of your favorite artists and some of your favorite songs for a ghost from the 1920s, what would be on that
Hmm.
playlist?
I think it's definitely Taylor Swift. Obviously, I think that was really my one contribution to the whole music discourse in the movie. Because that was all written in like the Frank Ocean bat, but like that was the writer. That was very much, I think, his taste in music, and he wrote it in. And I came in as this big Swiftie, and I was like, no, he needs to introduce her to Taylor Swift. And this was pre like the Eras tour
Oh
too, where
yeah.
it's just like she's so iconic, and maybe, looking back, like maybe for a 17-year-old boy, he wouldn't be such a big Swiftie where he has multiple posters on his wall, but it got people talking. I feel like there were so many tweets like, oh, I love that Cole is a big Swiftie and he's not afraid to embrace it and to show it. Um, so I think the writer did a very good job of just like picking a very eclectic mix of artists for Cole to be into and to introduce B2.
Oh, that's great. Well, like I told you before we started recording, Michael Cimino is one of my favorite actors. I absolutely loved him in Love, Victor, and I instantly clicked on it on Netflix when I saw, the poster with him on it.
Sure.
I was like, I'll watch literally anything he's in. So I know he's a very talented musician, but I
Hmm.
did not know, is it true that he learned how to play guitar specifically for this film?
Yes.
Oh,
So I've been a huge fan of Michael for a long time. I love Victor, and I actually auditioned him for a role in my previous film, Tall Girl 2. And I remember he wasn't quite right for that role, but he left a very big impression on me. And I remember when he auditioned, there was all these musical instruments in his room. So when we were looking for Cole, I remember that he was also a musician. So we brought him in to audition for Cole. Um, he sings, so I think he's a singer-songwriter, but I didn't realize that he didn't really play the guitar. So we did hire a music coach to teach him how to play the guitar. And Peyton absolutely did not play the piano. So we had to teach her how to play the piano. And actually, Michael is a really good pianist. So he was actually helping Peyton learn the piano like during off days. So that's pretty cool. So he actually plays the piano better than he plays the
oh
guitar.
my gosh. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I was also very curious about if she already knew how to play the
Right.
piano. That's great that they, take the time to learn this stuff.
Mhm.
And on screen, you would never know. That's why, like, I
Right.
had read online he learned for this, and I was like,
Yeah.
did he or did he already know? Because I knew he had songs out, and I
Yeah.
knew he was a very talented singer. So I was like, that's very cool to know the behind the scenes of
Yeah.
how they got to play these instruments. So Peyton List as B. One of my
Mhm.
favorite scenes with her was the introduction scene between her
Okay.
and Cole. And
Hmm.
what do you remember from that day of filming when everyone had their first introduction, like in real life? So maybe day one, when everyone's introductions were happening.
So, wow. So the first week we shot in the house. So we actually shot all of like the Cole moving in stuff first. And this is interesting because where B is first introduced, or are you talking about B's first introduction in the museum or B when
Oh,
she appears in the house with
yeah, when
Cole?
she appears in the house, like their first introduction to each other.
Yes. So her first introduction in the movie was not actually her first introduction in the script. We actually, in the post stage, decided to delay her appearance until much later. It's like we were trying to build up this suspense. Because I think in the script, he walks upstairs and then as he walks out, like the camera reveals there's a ghost living in his house. But we thought in the post process, oh, it might be more interesting if we just kind of delayed the appearance of the ghost. So that's kind of what happened. But we actually shot that first scripted introduction, I think, pretty early on. And it was a very kind of intricate camera move where, we had to hide, like where I think Peyton was literally like hiding behind the camera operator while he's like walking around the room until he walks out and then the camera reveals. I mean, it was a pretty intricate choreography, and
Mhm.
then we ended up cutting it out of the movie. So that was a really fun kind of, introduction. But Peyton and Michael obviously had been working together during prep and they became instant friends
Oh,
like right away. And I think we all could tell during the chemistry read. And we back, COVID times, we couldn't do a chemistry read in person. It was all done on Zoom. And it was down to Michael and I think two or three other actors. And then we brought maybe four actors in to read with Peyton, but like we just knew right away. Like as soon as like Michael popped on, like you could just see Peyton light up. Like
oh,
it was like an instant, like the chemistry was there, like the friendship, like right away they like got along. So sometimes, like individually they were all great actors, but it has to work together in a story like this.
mhm. Yeah, and their chemistry just, radiates off the screen. I was so happy with just the way that the two of them interacted, and you
Mhm.
can tell it just really does translate, from real life to the screen when actors have that bond. So very, very cool to see the two of them together, and I'm so glad that both of them were
Yeah.
cast in this film.
Yes.
So one of my favorite lines in the film was he gave us the privilege of missing
Mhm.
him. And that line, when I heard it, it reminded me, I don't know if you watched WandaVision, but it
Oh
reminded me of
no,
that
but I
line. Oh,
know
okay.
what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, there's like an iconic line
Yeah.
between Wanda and Vision about grief. And it
Grief.
reminded me of that. And I was wondering what it was like directing such an emotional scene.
So that scene between Cole and his mom, that was definitely the most emotional scene to film because Andrea, who played his mom, like really gravitated towards the script because she also had a recent loss in her life. So for her, those were real emotions that she was experiencing. I remember like even during just rehearsal, usually during rehearsal, they hold back because they want to save it for the camera. She was full on bawling. And I had to ask her to like hold it back because, like we want to save it for the close up, but she just couldn't help herself. Like so much of that scene were genuine emotions because they were drawing from their real life experience. And I mean, these two actors were really the sort of consummate like professionals because what happened that day, like we were setting for this very emotional scene and we shot like, the two shots and the wides and they were giving their all. And then we had some sort of freak storm on set that we had to shut down production. I think there was like a storm coming and it was all kinds of issues. And we were just getting into it. We were about to go into close up and we had to shut down production and pick up the next day. And I was like, oh my God, the actors are right there. They're like ready.
Yeah.
And they're like, don't worry, we could get there tomorrow. Like, so we actually shot that scene on two separate days, but you would have never known because they just sort of kept their emotions high. And yeah, and that was definitely one of the most touching scenes that I had to direct. There were quite a few times where I cried behind the monitor.
Oh, yeah, it's such a great scene. And I think that one is really going to resonate with the audience.
Yeah.
So since Girl Haunts Boy is a spooky movie,
Mm.
did anything spooky or unusual or strange
Hmm.
happen on set?
I wouldn't say spooky, but there were definitely sort of a string of bad luck. So the our black cat in the movie was actually two different cats. So again, we shot uh the the scenes of Cole moving in to the house, and that was a real house. So like that was week one, and then we built Cole's room on a soundstage, and that was the last week. So in between the first week of filming and then the last week of filming, our cat handler got COVID. So, so I remember like, the black cat was like due to be back on set the next day. And I get this like really panicked like phone call from my producer at like 9 p.m. the night before, like, oh my God, like the cat has COVID. I'm like, what? Like we had to very quickly replace the black cat with a new black cat. So that was two different cats, but hopefully you couldn't tell.
I couldn't tell.
But it was just one of those things where it was just the weirdest like things that would happen, and we would get these like freak storms that would like knock out the electricity. Like there were just things that were constantly happening where we're like, oh my God, why is this so hard to finish this movie? But then we made it to the finish line and it all worked out beautifully. So I wouldn't say there was anything supernatural that happened, but there were it's seemingly like, a string of bad luck
Yeah.
that happened to us.
Oh my gosh. Well, speaking of supernatural, do
Mhm.
you yourself believe in ghosts?
Okay. I've been asked this question before. I don't think I believe in ghosts in sort of like that pop culture way, like Ghostbusters or whatnot. But I do believe that there is sort of this sort of kind of different level kind of between us and whatever that afterlife is. Because my mom is a very devout Buddhist. And so, usually after someone dies, there's usually 49 days before you kind of reincarnate into your next life. So there is that kind of in between realm. So yeah, I guess you could call them ghosts. But, I just feel like in pop culture, it's like Casper, it's like Ghostbuster. Not quite like that, but I do believe there is kind of maybe a realm above ours where there's spirits. So a little bit, but I'm not like a ghost hunter devotee or anything like that.
Mhm. I'm undecided. I don't know. Sometimes I think yes, but then
Yeah,
sometimes like I watch stuff on TV like like the Ghost Hunter stuff, and I'm
sure.
like, okay, well,
Yeah.
I don't know. If there was something, I feel like there would be more hard proof, but then that's the thing is like it's so elusive and it's like, well,
You can prove it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's tough. It's tough. That's why I'm like, I could go either way.
Yeah, but I definitely do believe in like ghosts and haunting and metaphorical
Mhm.
way, just kind of how this movie is, like the ghost is really a metaphor for his grief over his father. And I truly believe, and I remember when I first got the script, there's this saying, every love story is a ghost story. And that like really reminded, like when I first got the script, it really reminded me of that because love stories, there's always invariably an end, whether someone dies or leaves or whatnot, and you kind of carry that love with you. So you're kind of forever haunted by that. So like I really love the kind of the metaphorical meaning of, a ghost love story, whether or not I believe in,
Right.
ghosts as a provable concept or not. Yeah.
Mhm. So we are less than 2 weeks away from Halloween right now,
Yeah.
and I can't believe it. It's my favorite time of year, but it's going by so fast. Do you have some horror movie recommendations for people out there who are putting together their Halloween watch lists?
Oh my God. So I am terrified of horror movies. I cannot watch horror movies and scary movies. And that's why I feel like this movie is so perfect because if you want to get into like the Halloween spooky season mood without wanting to get scared, this is sort of like the perfect way. Like I saw a lot of people online. I was like, yeah, it's like a very cozy Halloween
Mhm.
watch without getting scared. Um, so this gave me an opportunity to make a Halloween movie without having to go into horror. So yeah, I'm deathly afraid of anything horror tinged because I can't sleep at night. I think when I was way too young, I watched Nightmare on Elm Street, which I think I watched it when I was like 7 or 8. Like I think I was way too young and it kind of scarred me for life. Because I just couldn't sleep because the whole movie is about like, if you fall asleep, then
Yeah.
you made your dreams. And since then, I've just kind of stayed away.
Mhm. Oh my gosh. Yeah. But you did mention some other ones, like if people are looking for more like family friendly and not like
Yes.
specifically scary.
Yeah.
You mentioned Ghostbusters, you mentioned
Sure.
Casper. I would say
Sure.
Adam's Family, stuff like that. So there's a lot of like
Yeah.
family friendly horror light, I guess.
Exactly.
But yeah, this movie is a perfect film for the Halloween season. And what's great is it's the whole
Yes.
family can enjoy it too. It's not going to
Yes.
scar people like Nightmare on Elm Street.
Exactly.
And then my favorite question to ask people
Mm.
is, do you have a favorite Halloween costume that you have ever dressed up as?
Oh my God. So I haven't really dressed up for Halloween in a while because I have two little kids and they dress up. But I don't usually dress up for Halloween, but I love to dress up for like I throw an Oscar party every year and I
Oh,
dress up as like movie characters. So I dress up as like Emma Stone in La La Land. I've dressed up as like like various characters. So it would be really cool if people could dress up as Bee for
oh.
Halloween this year. If you could somehow find like a 1920s coral dress and the hat, maybe I'll source something and maybe I could dress up as Bee from Girl Hunts Boy. So get that
Oh,
trending and get that into a Halloween costume.
yeah, I would love to see that. That would be such a fun costume idea. And I love your idea for the Oscar party because I normally have either go to a friend's house for the
Yeah.
Oscars or just watch it with my boyfriend and my puppy.
Yeah.
But the idea of dressing up as like a character from that year's films, that's such a genius idea. I never thought of that.
Yeah, and then we do this whole thing where we do like puns, like all the food is like inspired by a dish. So yeah, it's really fun. It's been one of my favorite kind of traditions. It kind of tapered down, during COVID, and I'm slowly kind of bringing it back. And we just had, a big watch party for this movie where like all the food was like ghost
Oh,
themed. So I love theme parties, and I think this is a great like if you and your friends want to get together and have a little Halloween watch party and serve some you know ghost spooky Halloween themed food. It's a lot of fun.
oh, that sounds great. Well, Emily, I cannot thank you enough for joining me. And I honestly cannot wait to see what your next project is. So in the meantime, where is a great place for people to follow you and keep up with all your upcoming projects?
So I'm most active on Instagram. So I'm at Emily Ting 917. You could find a lot of like cool behind the scenes photos of this film. I'm also on Letterboxd. Just to like warn people who follow me on Letterboxd, I'm also a writer of Christmas rom-coms for Hallmark. So Hallmark's Countdown to Christmas is starting tonight. So I'll be watching a slew of Christmas movies. So if you follow me on Letterboxd, you're going to be like, oh my God, all she does is watch like Hallmark Christmas movies. But, I have to do research for work. So
Mhm.
that's why.
Oh, that's very fun. Yeah, I'll follow you on Letterbox right now because I love Letterbox. I don't ever
Yeah.
write any reviews or rate anything.
Uh-huh.
I just like having a list of all the movies I've
Yeah.
watched.
I like to
Yeah.
see what my friends are watching, and it's like a
Mhm.
great way. So yeah, so after you get into the Halloween mood with Girl Haunts Boy, I do have a new Christmas movie coming out on Hallmark Channel called Christmas with the Sings, which I co-wrote with Patricia Isaac. And it's going to be out on Hallmark Channel on November 15th. So it's like very quickly, like I just, we put my Halloween movie to bed. Now I
Mhm.
have to get ready for Christmas.
Yeah. Oh, that's so fun. I will definitely check that out as
Okay.
well. Thank you, Emily, and
Thank
I
you.
hope you have a great rest of your day and a happy Halloween.
Yes, you too. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.